China has become more capable in serving global market. We are 75% of US GDP now. It's the second largest economy in the world.
皆さんこんにちは。世界のスタートアップ情報を発信するスタートアップバックパッカーです。今回は中国のベンチャーキャピタルをインタビューし、中国スタートアップの強みやトレンド、そして傾向について伺っていきたいと思います。アメリカに次ぐスタートアップ大国の中国、目が離せません。
So now I'm here with Alex, partner of Antler in China. It'd be great, if we could start off with knowing more about your background.
It's my pleasure to meet you, Everett. I graduated from Harvard Business School in 2009. After school, I was back in China, so for VC investment. So I was lucky to went through the first mobile internet boom in China, somewhere starting from 2010 until 2020, where the mobile penetration in China has been really fast. At that time, working as a partner at Innovation Works, which is a pretty big fund now. After that, I started my own fund called Alpha Startup Fund. Also focused on early stage, Series A stage investment. Last year, I was focusing on backing Chinese founders building global business. Companies like TikTok or Shein. So those companies have all their structure outside China. Basically, all their revenue and customers are from overseas. To support that kind of venture building, so I started a new fund collaborating with Antler called Antler Dragon Fund. The uniqueness about this fund is we're 100% focused on backing Chinese founders, building global ventures.
I see. What made you want to work for Antler?
As we talk about, because I want to focus on this momentum where I see Chinese founders after they have been working in China, building some startups, they're seeing lots of opportunities overseas, leveraging China's strength, either in terms of engineers, or some technology, or the longest supply chain in China. That's opportunity I want to focus on investing for startups in China before. There hasn't been so many founders focusing on global markets for the past 10, 20 years in China. This is a very new trend. I think the fundamental reason for that is China has been developed very quickly. Technology penetration grew very quick. Per capita GDP also grew very quickly. That's why we have lots of big internet companies like Tencent, Baidu, Ali. But now, in terms of technology penetration, it has been flat for many years because the mobile penetration had reached its highness. Just to give a number, we have 1.4 billion people in China. For big internet companies like ByteDance, their monthly active user is 1.1 billion. So basically, all the people in China have a smartphone is already ByteDance customer. And also because we just finished up the pandemic in China, there has been lots of restrictions for traveling into China and outside China. After the restrictions were lifted, people are seeing more opportunities outside. So that's, I think, a big change. It's very different from 3 years before. They have been very much focused on building startups in China market. But now they're seeing more dividend and higher growth overseas.
I see. And the market is getting more competitive,
more saturated, overheated. Another factor, as you said, is for the limited growth opportunity, there has been many competitors in China. All the big giants in China, they don't have that clear-cut boundary when they compete. So Meituan can do stuff like Baidu is doing something, Alibaba is doing. So everyone is competing with each other on some fronts.
Now that you mentioned that more founders are looking for opportunities overseas, I believe, in Japan, some are actually really successful, big ones like DJI's or even Boya or Anchor. So I was just wondering, what sort of founders do you think would you want to actually invest in?
It's a new thing. It's definitely challenging than just building a company in an environment that you're familiar with. What we're looking for, number one, is they need a very sharp China strength. We can elaborate later on. So China strength. Secondly, we're looking for tech innovation. We're looking for companies have a tech advantage as compared to they only sell very low tech products like what China is used to sell in overseas market, right? Thirdly, we're looking for a bigger market potential. So if you're doing Vietnam market versus US market, we prefer bigger market.
I guess you mentioned going to the US, right? The US market. Is that the main market you would want the startups to get into, or?
That's definitely a top priority market for many reasons. Japan also as well, right? So US, China, they're both single large market with highest per capita GDP and spending power. But it's also one of the most competitive market in the world. Everyone want to do this market. So I think they have a very good configuration for the market. But at the same time, the demand for quality of the service is also the highest.
I see.
Competition is also the most fierce.
Is there a certain industry you are interested in, like recently in China? And like, in terms of like unfair advantage, is there like an industry that China has?
There are some big areas where China has been pretty good at. One of the things is a very long and comprehensive supply chain. We can produce everything within the country. Sophisticated as smartphones, high-end chips, all the way to chemicals, products, energy, or anything in between. And also China has been a main exporter, supply those stuff. Industry goods, consumer electronics, all kinds of goods to the world for many years. It's very cost efficient with very high ROI. And then the second big, a good mind founders can tap into is a talent supply. The pure population of China. Every year we have 10 million college graduates, highly educated, highly skilled people graduated from college. Third, many of the consumer-facing internet services in China have been developed very sophisticated. For example, where ByteDance and TikTok is competing, social networks, social media, online commerce, fintech, logistics. So many of the consumer-facing internet services in China have been developed very sophisticated. As you live in Beijing for a week, you can sense it's very easy to order deliveries, very easy to pay using QR code. You don't have to carry any cash. Very easy to buy everything online. Call it taxi. So some sectors Chinese are very good at. Games, social, e-commerce. Those are sectors where Chinese have many know-hows. So that would be something China founders can also leverage on. Some sectors are much developed than the rest of the world, where you know what's going on down the road, right? It's like what Masa-san is calling a time machine theory, right? So you know what's going to happen here in China. So in a way, you can foresee at least some major development down the road for emerging economies.
Definitely. Yeah. Now that you mentioned all the industries, there's a lot of potential, I guess.
But there's still the big challenge, as you mentioned. A challenge you have to adapt into that market in terms of branding, go to market, how do you manage the team on the ground? It's different working culture, different religion. As you know, Chinese has been an inward-looking economy for many years. It's not like we're Americans. They're used to do business around the world. But for us, it's just more challenge for you to find people who understand your culture. You have to learn the local culture, how to manage the teams, cross-culture. There has been lots of issues, I think, around that. For companies like TikTok, they have pretty big global presence. You heard news from time to time. Their employees in London has been complaining about their working culture. In China, people work aggressively. You have to respect different cultures. Maybe in London, people respect more of their private time instead of reply to your message on WhatsApp anytime you want. You have to be more open-minded to be inclusive.
But because they're struggling now, and I guess if they get used to it, there will be more success cases, and I guess that's where the investment opportunity is, right?
Yeah, exactly. We definitely should learn from Toyota, Panasonic, Microsoft, Apple, those very developed international companies, how they structure, how they serve different markets. Having said that, there has been companies like Shopee, C Group, companies like TikTok, Huawei. So there has been some examples where Chinese founders and companies can adapt to the local market, create unique value to serve the market.
So now it would be nice to know more about the VC landscape of China and also how it has changed. I know it's
over time.
It's been changing a lot dynamically in China. I find it very, very unique because of the governments collaborating and all that.
Yes. So I think the VC started in China around 1990, somewhere around that. I mean, it first started when Chinese have been learning from the US VCs. the US VCs came to China because they see like Gary from Qiming Ventures. They're one of those earliest US VC who started operation in China because they see with their experience in Silicon Valley where they back great tech companies, they see lots of potential in China as well. People came back from the US are building similar internet service, Baidu, as compared to Yahoo in China as well. So they move with the founders to China. I think that's the first generation of Chinese founders, and the VC backed them. Chinese VCs has been grow with Chinese founders along the way in the past 30 years, and also learning from the US VCs. So gradually, the China GPs learn about how to invest, how to add value to founders. I think in the second phase, after US VC fly to China doing investment, Chinese VC, local GPs has grown up. Most of the Chinese VCs are focused on China market because that's where most of the growth came from. What I see in the future is there are still lots of opportunities for China market, for domestic market. At the same time, China has become more capable in serving global market. I think for the next generation of VCs, we should be able to prepare ourselves to serve the needs of this new generation of founders building global ventures. That I see is a really big trend going forward. Just China's VC are also becoming global.
I've always wanted to ask, because government policies change, the global situation, it's been changing a lot, right? Yes. And then investing in startups is like a long-term investment, right? Right. I always wanted to ask how Chinese VCs actually manage those risks.
In China, I think it's fair to say for the past 30 years, the main school of thoughts for China to develop is because it's more or less a market-driven, market-based economy. Although we have a different government operation, but you can see in internet space, e-commerce space, education space, it's still market-driven. If it's market-driven, I think people can make rational decisions. I think that's something you can predict. It's more stable for you to navigate your company, for you to hedge your risk when you do investment. But as the economy grow to this stage, we are 75% of US GDP now. It's the second largest economy in the world. At this stage, I think it's also fair to say they have to make some change on how the economy interacts with the political setup. The government at this stage, they may see challenges and opportunities for the next 20 years. They need to get involved to guide the economy to some new direction. So it's natural to have those policy change. But that's why I think, they still have great opportunities inside China where you have to be very alert about China's policy. At the same time, if you choose to use China's strength to go to international markets, Japan, US, although it's challenging, but it's also the most market-based economy in the world. There are many rules you can predict because there has been laws, regulations for many years. Well, in China, you have this policy uncertainty. But in global market, especially developed market like Japan, US, you have more predictability
I see.
into how you develop. I think it's market economy much more developed in a global market. I think that's a good thing for startup.
And obviously for you because to investors.
For investors, you definitely need a more rule-based market.
Are founders actually aggressive and eager to go global? Or do you still have this issues of founders being comfortable in their own market? I guess in China, many people, some people don't speak English and all that, right?
Nobody like change. It's always hard to, for us to, for you to move as a small kid to US and study. You have to adapt to learning a new language, eating new stuff. You may not like it, but you're forced to do it because you want a better life. You want to survive. That's a fundamental drive for you to overcome the harsh conditions. I think that's something that's driven Chinese founders.
Wow, okay.
They're looking for a better life. They're very, very hardworking. For some companies, they see international market is only for them to survive. Right? So if you stay in China, it's a highly competitive market. Maybe only 5% of the players can meet the cost efficiency to make money. But if you go to global market, you can charge higher if your service are good. that is a fundamental drive, I think,
I see.
for people to compete, to adapt, to change.
Correct. So there's like an incentive to, I guess, go overseas.
Yeah, even confidence is the biggest enemy. So China is a big economy, but the vast majority of people are still making pretty low income.
I see.
Because the population, right? So people are still working very hard. As you spend this week in Beijing, you can see all the people working on as delivery.
They're everywhere.
Very hardworking. If you go to companies like ByteDance or Alibaba, they work all the way into 12 p.m., 11 p.m. And also in the past 10, 20 years, there has been many Chinese who have been educated, overseas in Japan, in US, in different countries. So the supply of global ready founders are bigger than before.
Yeah, it would be great if we can finish up with, if there's any people you'd be interested in connecting with, and also if you have any questions or comments, I'd be happy to have some.
Yeah. I would like to have more opportunities to know more VCs and founders from Japan. It's always good for us to gain a new perspective. For Japan, I know there has been very, very high quality services and products. And that's something, Chinese founders and businesses should be learning how to do it, how to deliver those high quality service and products. Because in China, there's also, what's good about China is founders in China always have this growth mentality. They used to be in a high growth environment, and how to leverage that speed to grow is also critical. That's something every founder should be also learn about. When people from different backgrounds talk about things, there's always a tremendous opportunity to learn.
Thank you so much for, I respect you for being very open-minded. If you're interested, please contact Alex.
And I hope you have a very rewarding trip around the globe.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Best wishes for you.
はい、今回の動画ではですね、いかに中国企業が今海外を見ていて、海外進出をしているのかみたいなところが非常にトレンドなので、そこは非常に面白かったなと思います。日本でもテムという e コマースの企業さんが非常に今積極的に進出していて、かなり広告とかでも見るようになっているかと思います。で、やはり今回のインタビューを通じて思ったのは、本当に中国国内でですね、かなり競争が激しいので、中国にしかない技術というものがあるかと思うので、それをいかにその海外に広めていくのか、そしてまた新たにどういった技術を今後作っていくのかというところが見どころなのかなと思います。もちろん海外に出る分日本にも来るかと思うので、日本での競争もより激しくなるというような可能性もありますし、逆にですね、中国企業さんも日本企業と協力したいみたいなところもあると思うので、そこもビジネスチャンスだと思うので、そういった視点を持つと面白いビジネスが今後日本でも展開できるのかなと思いますので、こういった海外スタートアップに関する有益な情報を定期的に流しておりますので、チャンネル登録といいね、コメントしていただけると非常に嬉しいです。ありがとうございました。